Welcome back to another MMA predictions video here on the City Light Project YouTube channel. Today we are going to go over the entire UFC Fight Night Lewis vs Spivac card, bottom to top, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event. So stick around to hear my prediction for the main event of the evening. Let's start with the first fight. Tatsuro Taira against Jesus Santos Aguilar. Tatsuro Taira, 12-0 in the UFC, perfect 12-0 pro, only 23 years old, 3 KO, TKO, 6 submissions, 3 decisions. He's currently also on a 2-fight win streak in the UFC. Glad to see Tatsuro Taira back fighting. We all know why you love him. You all know why you love him. I love you, thank you! What an absolute beauty. One of the better prospects in the UFC right now. His opponent, Jesus Santos Aguilar, 8-1 is his professional record, 26 years old, 6 submissions, 2 decisions out of Mexico, fighting at 125 pounds. He had a sick submission guillotine choke victory on Dana White Contender Series earlier last year. He's had a decent career fighting in Combate Global and UWC Mexico, to name a few of the promotions. First fight, I'm going with Tatsuro Taira. I love you, thank you! 12-0, make that 13-0 after Saturday. He's young, he's raw, he's huge for the division, folks. Again, keep an eye on that. He's gonna look so much bigger than Aguilar. Great mix of KO, TKO, and grappling ability. He's strong. Like I said, he's tough. He's got knockout power, and he's only 23 years old. One of the regional promotions that he fought in is a very good regional promotion. He's 2-0 in the UFC. He's got the experience in the UFC, and I do think he's going to take this one. First fight on the prelims against Jesus Santos Aguilar. Next, we have Jeong Yeong Park against Dennis Tiululin. Jeong Yeong Park, the Iron Turtle, 31 years of age, 15-5 pro MMA record, 5 KO, TKO, 4 submissions, 6 decisions, fighting at middleweight. He's on a 2-fight win streak in the UFC, beating Eric Anders via split decision, and Joseph Holmes via rear naked choke in the second round. His only notable losses in the UFC are to Gregory Rodriguez and Anthony Hernandez. Hernandez being his debut in the UFC, went on a 3-fight win streak after that loss, and now he's on a 2-fight win streak again after his second loss in the UFC. So not a bad UFC record and a fun fighter to watch in Jeong Yeong Park. His opponent, Dennis Tiululin, 10-6, 1 no contest pro MMA record. He's 34 years old, formerly fought in M1. Very much a knockout artist. 9 KO, TKO, 1 decision. He beat Jamie Pickett via brutal knees and punches in a KO last September. But as of late, it's been kind of streaky in his career. Since his last loss in M1, where he left the promotion, he did go on a 3-fight win streak in Fight in the Sun, Kings of Warriors, and Leon Warriors, but he lost in Brave, won in UAE Warriors, lost his first fight in the UFC, and then beat Jamie Pickett. Again, that impressive TKO in the second round. Honestly, I'm kind of pissed. This is the second fight on the card for all those watching Bellator 290, the last Emperor in his last fight. They might miss this one. It should be up the card. I'm picking Jeong Yeong Park. He's such a fun fighter to watch, ladies and gentlemen. He's such a fun fighter to watch. That is my pick. He doesn't break easily, so I don't think it's going to be that easy for Tiululin to knock him out. He's got a great chin. He's got awesome cardio. He's a solid striker now. Not anything crazy, but he's improved immensely in his UFC career in particular. He's tough as nails and he likes to scrap, so this one could be a very fun fight to watch. Amazing grappling, though. Amazing grappling. When he gets on your back, you're going to sleep. He's only 31. Balanced fighter with his striking, his grappling, and his submissions. I'm going with Jeong Yeong Park, and I'm hoping, knock on wood, that I'll be able to watch it. And I guess could have the double screen going. A fight that should be the first one on this fight, so we don't miss Tatsuro Taira or Jeong Yeong Park win in their first 2 fights, is Ji Young Kim against Mandy Böhm. Ji Young Kim, 9-6 in a pro MMA career, 2 draws, 33 years old, is the Fire Fist. 2 KO TKO, 3 submission, 4 decision. She's on a 4-fight losing streak. Now, some of these decisions have been close. I know some of them say unanimous, but they have been close fights overall. She lost to Grasso, McCann, Cachoeira, and Edwards. Again, solid fighters in the division, and a lot of the fights were very, very close. Look at even Antonina Shevchenko as well. If you've watched some of these fights, if you're familiar with them, you will agree. She's not a bad fighter by any means and was kind of a prospect when she entered the UFC, but this is her last chance to show the promotion that she's worth keeping them on the roster. Someone in a similar mindset, although not as long of a losing streak, is Mandy Böhm. 7-2 pro MMA record, 1 no contest. She's 33 years old, 2 KO TKO, 2 submission, 3 decisions, training out of SBG Ireland. She's on a 2-fight losing streak, losing to way worse opponents than Jeong Kim, Victoria Leonardo, Arani Lipitsky. Like, come on, unanimous decision losses each time as well. Sure, you gotta win on Bellator and you're undefeated coming into the UFC. Props to you, but you have not shown any fan or the promotion that you deserve to necessarily be fighting the best of the best right now. So very important for both of these women to put on a show. I hope they do put on a show, since this is the 3rd fight on the card, not the first one, when there's clearly going to be some Bellator overlap. Oh my goodness. I'm going with Jeong Kim though. Again, both these women not that great. She has better technique though, close losses to better opponents, fought better competition, and I hope this 4-fight losing streak lights a fire up under her and she beats the out of Mandy Böhm. Next, Seung Choi against Hung Sung Park. Seung Choi, 6 wins, 1 loss in his pro MMA career. He's 26 years old, 2 KO TKO, 4 decisions. He won his last 2 fights on the UFC Road to the UFC show, which again, if you haven't seen that show, it's an awesome show, especially if you're a fan of Contender Series or old school The Ultimate Fighter. Both decisions on the program. Before making his appearance on the show, was on a 3-fight win streak. His opponent, peace of mind, Hung Sung Park, 27 years old, 7-0. He's undefeated in his pro MMA career. 3 KO TKO, 3 submissions, 1 decision, fighting at 125 pounds. Again, undefeated and 2 nice wins in Road to the UFC. You can see the guy likes to finish his fights as well. A solid prospect coming in, and he's looked very good on the show thus far. How can you not pick Hung Sung Park in this one? Looked way better on Road to the UFC with his 2 finishes. 1 KO TKO and 1 submission. No pro losses. Better finishing ability clearly as you look at his last 6 fights. All of them via finish. Way more technical, way better of a complete mixed martial artist, and I can't wait for him to finish this fight probably within the distance. Hung Sung Park, that is my pick. Excited for this fight. Next we have Toshiomi Kazama against Rinya Nakamura. Toshiomi Kazama, the silent finisher, 25 years old, 10-2 pro MMA record. 3 KO TKO, 5 submission, 2 decision. This guy's a submission specialist, as you can see when I scroll through his record here. Won his last fight on Road to the UFC, coming off a loss, and before them was on a very nice win streak. Fought in Shudo, fought in Pancrase, 9-fight win streak before suffering his loss in LDH martial arts via flying knee, a brutal way to get knocked out. This guy loves to submit his opponents though, and again, a lot of experience at this young age fighting in Pancrase. Looking at his opponent, Rinya Nakamura, the hybrid. 6-0, he's a perfect pro MMA career. 4 KO TKO, 1 submission, 1 decision. Wrestling background, but fallen in love with his hands. He won his last 2 fights on Road to the UFC and came in undefeated, as I said. He had 2 fights in Shudo, which is pretty good. 1 in LDH and 1 in FD. Again, not a lot of experience. 1-time wrestler now, mixed martial artist, Nakamura. Look, when it's a young wrestler who's fallen in love with his hands versus a more experienced Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist who now has experience in mixed martial arts, it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu all the way. Japanese Jiu-Jitsu in this case, I'm going with Toshiomi Kazama. I mean, not the best performances on the show, Road to the UFC, but hey, he had 1 fight, he looked okay. It's more so his finishing ability overall. Like I said, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu against wrestling, especially when the dominant wrestler is still very young to the sport and just falling in love with their hands. More finishes in his career, 5 submissions overall. and just more experience. And more experience up against other mixed martial arts strikers, probably some strikers who are better than Nakamura. This one's tough. I don't think this is going to be the most exciting fight unless we see a nice slick finish, but I'm going with jiu-jitsu over the wrestling background of Nakamura. I'm going with Toshiomi Kazama. Next, Jeong Yeong Lee against Zha Yi. The Korean Tiger, Jeong Yeong Lee, 27 years old, 9-1 in his pro MMA career, 4 KO, TKO, 3 submission, 2 decisions, fighting at 145 pounds. On a hell of a win streak right now. 2, 4, 6 fight win streak. His last 2 wins on road to the UFC. 1 via armbar, 1 via KO. The guy likes to finish his opponents. Looking at his opponent, Zha Yi, 26 years old, 21 wins, 3 losses. This guy's got a hell of a lot of experience in professional mixed martial arts out of China. 6 KO, TKO, 10 submissions, 5 decisions. He's on a 3-fight win streak right now. Won his last 2 fights on road to the UFC, 1 via submission, 1 via split decision. Wow, this is an interesting one. Both guys around the same age. One with a crazy amount of experience, probably fighting a lot more cans, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, based on my research. I'm going with Jeong Yeong Lee. He's younger and less experienced. I get that, but he's very talented. He's huge for the division. He's got some very good recent wins. KO on road to the UFC and armbar. He's showing the UFC, showing his fans that he has a lot of tools in his toolkit, even though he's not as experienced as his opponent. I'm going with the prospect over the veteran. Now, I know the 26-year-old is the veteran here, but look, maybe he's used to crushing cans. He didn't look as good on road to the UFC. I think he's beaten better opponents as well. Jeong Yeong Lee, you are my pick. Locking it in. Let's go. Give me 1 sec, folks. I'm thirsty. Next, we have Jeka Espirito Saragih against Anshul Jubli. Jeka Espirito Saragih out of Indonesia, 13 wins, 2 losses, 28 years old, fighting at 155 pounds, 8 KO, TKO, 4 submissions, 1 decision. He's currently on an impressive 5-fight win streak. His last 2 wins via UFC, road to the UFC, both of them ending in KO, one of them spinning back fist. Look, the guy likes to throw those hands. He's got great hands. He's kind of an awkward fighter, which we'll get into here in a moment. But I liked what I've seen from him. I've liked what I've seen from him thus far. Looking at his opponent, Anshul Jubli out of India. We don't see a lot of Indian fighters. Cool to see him representing India. Kings of Leon, 28 years old, 6 wins, 0 losses. He's undefeated in pro mixed martial arts. 1 KO, TKO, 1 submission, 4 decision. Fighting at Tiger Muay Thai. His last 2 wins, one of which coming from road to the UFC, where he won a split decision and actually got a submission arm triangle choke in MFN before that. Again, he's 6-0, impressed on road to the UFC, and he's going to be making an appearance representing India on this fight night in the United States in Las Vegas. I'm going with Jeka Espirito Saragih for this one. Look, 2 beautiful KOs on road to the UFC. 1 spinning back fist, baby. Reckless fighter, but dangerous. He'll take a shot to give one. He'll feint a couple times before giving one, but he's hard to read. He's not afraid, like I said, to take some shots when he's entering the pocket, and he hits hard. He's got some unbelievably quick hands, especially that brutal right hand. So he's very dangerous on the feet. He's tough. He's vicious. Like I said, he's got a dominant right hand, and he has more experience, fighting more experienced fighters, but just more fights in general than that of Jubli. So I'm picking Jeka to win this one. I'm picking him to win this one and probably knock out his opponent. Locking it in. Let's get to the next one. Here we go. We got Adam Fugitt against Yusaku Kinoshita. And it's Fugitt, not Fugitt, ladies and gentlemen. Yusaku Kinoshita out of Japan, 22 years old. My boy Shane, one of the exclusive members on the channel. Shane, and shout out to our exclusive members. Appreciate you all. This is his favorite fighter in the UFC. He's been waiting for him to make his debut. 6-1 pro MMA record, but his loss, you can just scratch that off. It was due to disqualification for, what is it, holding on to the ropes a little too much. He didn't actually lose that fight. 4 KO, TKO, 2 submissions, 0 decisions. Very young fighter, but very fun fighter. Unbelievable win on Dana White's Contender Series. He won via TKO with a broken foot. This guy is tough as nails. And before then, got a win in Pancrase. He lost his only fight in Ryzen due to disqualification, so he didn't actually lose the fight. Primarily fought in Pancrase and Deep in Osaka. It would be interesting to see if he didn't get disqualified by Ryzen, if the promotion would have kept him there and he would have maybe started his career there. But for the benefit of us, this exciting young prospect and this tough as nails prospect is going to be making his UFC debut on Saturday. Up against Adam Fugitt out of Eugene, Oregon. 34 years old, 8 wins, 3 losses, 4 KO, TKO, 3 submissions, 1 decision. He lost his last fight to Michael Morales at UFC 277. That was also his UFC debut. So new to the promotion, 1 fight under his belt, but very much an experienced fighter overall. He's fought in LFA, Pure Combat, X1, Prime Fighting. He's been all over the place. LFA, the best promotion in my opinion, other than the UFC that he's fought in. He's an okay fighter. He's tough as nails. He's got some good striking. However, I'm going with the young Kinoshita. He is so tough. He's so tough. Came in guns a-blazing in Contender Series and deserved his contract 100%. Unbelievable fighter and such a fun fighter to watch. Again, he won via TKO with a broken foot. Technical striker, very strong. Probably could have been signed without even fighting on the Contender Series. Like I said, only lost to disqualification. He's basically a 6-0 fighter and very composed. Despite being 22 years old, despite carrying that swagger, he's a very composed guy, professional athlete. Cannot wait to see him marinate and grow in the UFC. Kinoshita, that's my pick. Let's go, Shane. Moving up the card, we have Dooho Choi against Kyle Nelson. Dooho Choi, the Korean Superboy, 31 years old, despite looking 14 wins, 4 losses, 11 KO, TKO, 1 submission, 2 decision. The guy loves to strike and he's got hard hitting hands at 145 pounds. He is on a 3-fight losing streak in the UFC, and he's not the most active fighter. Now, I know he did have to perform his military service in Korea, which kind of like the Korean Zombies career, put him back a little bit. As you can see, between 2015 and 2019, only 5 fights in the promotion, going through 2 and 3, losing to Cubs Watson, Jeremy Stevens, and Charles Jourdain back in 2019. So he hasn't fought in the UFC since 2019 due to injuries and his military service, but as a prospect, he was awesome in his first 3 fights. Looking at his opponent, Kyle the Monster Nelson out of Canada, ladies and gentlemen, Huntsville, Ontario. Let's go. 31 years old, 13-5 pro MMA record, 5 KO, TKO, 4 submission, 4 decision at 155 pounds. He's currently on a 2-fight losing streak in the UFC. Lost to Billy Quarantillo and Jay Herbert. I mean, 2 decent guys. No shame there. No shame there. But he only is 1-4 in the UFC, as he lost to Matt Sales and Diego Ferreira. Before that, 2 guys that you probably should beat if you are truly a roster fighter in this promotion. He beat Marco Polo Reyes. Don't even know who that guy is, via TKO. So, I mean, there's that. If he wants to stay in the promotion, he's going to have to come back big here. My Canadian brother is going to have to come back big here against Dooho Choi. I'm going against the grain here. I don't like to do this, folks. I don't like to do this, but I'm going with my heart. I'm not going with my brain on this one. Oh, Canada, baby. Oh, Canada. We're going with Kyle Nelson. We're going with Kyle Nelson. All right? This is why. He's not a bad fighter. He's not a bad fighter, very much a striker. TKO in his last loss, should be motivated, knowing it might be his last UFC fight. And Dooho Choi, he's only had 3 fights in the last 7 years. Again, some of it due to injury, some of it due to military service. Ring rust is a real thing. He's in his 30s now. He was a young prospect when he first entered the UFC, when we first heard the name, when we first saw him fight his 3-fight win streak in the UFC, before losing 3, fighting injuries, and just being away from the sport. Look, Choi is the better fighter overall. Don't get me wrong. He's a great fighter. He's a good fighter. Nelson's not a bad fighter, but I think the ring rust will be evident. Let's go. Oh, Canada, baby. Let's go. We're going with Kyle Masters. Let's get on to the next one. Marcin Tybura against Blagoy Ivanov. Marcin Tybura out of Poland. 37 years old, 23 wins, 7 losses, 9 KO, TKO, 6 submissions, 8 decisions. We got the heavyweights now here, baby. His last fight was against Alexander Romanov, in which he won via majority decision. His last 2 fights went to decision. The one before going the distance against Alexander Volkov. Before then was on an impressive win streak in the UFC. 2, 4, 5 win streak in the UFC. 2 of those being by TKO or KO, TKO. 3 being by decision. Walt Harris, Greg Hardy, Ben Rothwell, Maxime Grishin, and Serghei Spivac. So not the best names there, but it's heavyweight, baby. It's heavyweight. Can't take that away from it at all, especially getting a good win against Alexander Romanov in August of 2022. His opponent, Blagoy Ivanov out of Bulgaria. 19 wins, 4 losses, 1 no contest, 6 KO, TKO, 6 submissions, 7 decisions. He looks older than Tybura. He won his last fight against Marco Rogeros de Lima via unanimous decision in, honestly, a pretty damn boring fight if you ask me. Before, lost to Derrick Lewis, Augusto Sakai, beat a younger Tai Tuivasa back in 2019, and an older Ben Rothwell. I mean, it's crazy to see, like, he has some decent wins on his career when he was fighting in Bellator, when he was fighting in WSOF, and when he was fighting in the PFL, and even translating over to the UFC again. Tai Tuivasa, Ben Rothwell, those are going to age well. Even Rogerio de Lima, who's washed now, but you know, at one time was a decent fighter. He just looks so boring and unmotivated, and is just a step behind even the heavyweight division right now. I mean, this is a matchup where I could see, put him up against like a Chris Barnett, knowing that like the first round, it might be a little bit competitive, but Chris Barnett will probably get the finish there, and that's what you want to see. That's what the fans want to see. I don't know. This one, I'm just not excited for this one at all, to be perfectly honest. And with that being said, you can probably guess who I'm picking. I'm going with Tybura to win this one. Locking it in, Marcin Tybura, legendary Polish power. It runs through all their veins. He's better than Ivanov in all areas these days anyways. Again, Ivanov, credit to him, prime of his career. He earned his spot up to the UFC, and again, he does have some decent wins on his record. Tybura can fight at a fast pace for heavyweight, and he traditionally does. That's why he can go to the distance and get those unanimous victories. 4-1 in his last 5 fights against decent opponents. I'm going with Tybura. I don't think this one even goes the distance, to be perfectly honest. I think Tybura's pace is just going to gas out Ivanov early, and he's going to finish him TKO. Next, as we enter the co-main event of the evening, Jung against Devin Clark. Jung, 15-3 pro MMA record, 29 years old, 11 KO, TKO, 2 submissions, 2 decisions, 1 draw. He lost his last fight to Dustin Jacoby on UFC ABC 3. Before then was on a 2-fight win streak, a draw with Sam Alvey before then, and an even bigger win streak before then. Oh my goodness, as we scroll down and are looking at this together. He won his first pro mixed martial arts fight, lost 2, then went on an absolute tear. 12-fight win streak before a draw with Sam Alvey, and then 2 more wins in the UFC against William Knight and Kennedy Nzechukwu, losing to Dustin Jacoby. The guy's got KO power. The guy is also a well-rounded mixed martial artist. Looking at his opponent, Devin Clark, brown bear out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, 32 years old, 13 wins, 7 losses, 4 KO, TKO, 1 submission, 8 decision. Fighting at Jackson Wink MMA. He lost his last fight, beat William Knight before then, was on a 2-fight losing streak before then, 1-2, lost 1. I mean, the guy's been pretty streaky. He's been in the UFC for a long time now. Been in the UFC since 2016. And he'll lose 1, win 2, lose 1, win 1, lose 1, win 1. And look, he's lost to good opponents. Rakic, Blachowicz, Ryan Spann, so Anthony Smith, Kutalaba. Like, I don't hold it against him at all. It's just he's taken so much damage in an active UFC career where he's fought very good opponents. Didn't really impress me in the William Knight win, and surely didn't impress me when he got TKO'd in the 3rd round against Azamat Mirzakhanov in the summer UFC on ESPN 41. In the co-main event, I'm going with Jung. He's still young. He's only 29 years old despite the experience. Dangerous striker, 11 KO TKOs. His last loss was in 2016. He's pretty much been on a 14-fight win streak if you don't count that draw with Sam Alvey. Funny enough. Smiling Sam Alvey. And before losing to Jacoby, which no shame losing to Jacoby, I think Jacoby was honestly a little bit... There's an argument that he was robbed against his last fight against Roundtree. He is a very, very good striker, one of the best in the UFC in his weight class. He's beaten solid guys, has done Jun. Devin Clark is okay, nothing special. He's taken a lot of damage throughout his career, and the elbows of Dang Jun, especially in the clinch. If Clark's going to clinch up with him or get close to him on the cage or going to try to grapple with him, maybe take him down if the striking's a little too crazy. He's got to be careful of those nasty elbows by Dang Jun. Going with him, lock it in to win the co-main event of the evening. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. The Black Beast is back for potentially his last fight in the UFC. It is time indeed. In the main event of the evening, we have Derrick the Black Beast Lewis out of Houston, Texas. 37 years old, 26 wins, 10 losses, 1 no contest. 21 wins have come via KO, TKO, 1 submission, 4 decisions. He lost his last 2 fights. I don't think Derrick Lewis has ever lost 3 fights in a row in his pro MMA career. He lost his last fight to Serghei Pavlovich. Before then to Tai Tuivasa. He dismantled Chris Dawkins. Before then, he lost to Cyril Gane. Before fighting Cyril Gane for the interim heavyweight title, he was on an impressive win streak, beating Ivanov, beating Latifi, beating Oleinik, and beating Curtis Blades. So here we go, 2-fight losing streak. So he always come back. He'll always come back. He's never lost more than 2 times in his entire career. Ladies and gentlemen, what an amazing career it has been for the Black Beast, Derrick Lewis. He is 37 years old, going up against a young man in 28-year-old Serghei Spivac, the Polar Bear. Spivac, 15 wins, 3 losses, 7 KO, TKO, 6 submissions, 2 decisions. So on the surface, looks very, very balanced. He's on a 2-fight win streak, beating Sakai and Hardy, lost to Aspinall, and then went on a 3-fight win streak before then. Funny enough, losing to Marcin Tybura, who's going to be fighting also on this card. All right, we have reached the main event, the moment you've been waiting for. My prediction on the main event here. And it's a tough one to predict, ladies and gentlemen. It is a tough one to predict. Derrick Lewis is an amazing underdog for this fight, and that is why we're picking him. We're picking with our hearts, but we're also picking with our heads. We're going with the Black Beast. Lewis is good at getting back up off the ground, and let's be honest, Spivac, he's not great in any area. He's not the best striker. He's not the best grappler. He's not the best submission artist. He's just fine in every category as a heavyweight, where Derrick Lewis, he's been fighting better wrestlers his entire career. He's been stuffing takedowns, knocking out Curtis Blades, and getting back up off the ground. Despite maybe him not being in the best conditional shape in some of his fights, it's almost like second nature to him. So I think he'll be able to get back up off the ground with ease against a Spivac who wants to take him down. Spivac's wins were not against good opponents, especially his last 3 wins. Sakai, Hardy, and Old Man Oleinik. Are you kidding me? Lewis was able to stuff Curtis Blades takedowns, and not only that, he was able to knock him out on the entry. You gotta beat him at his own game in striking. You gotta beat Derrick Lewis at his own game if you want to beat him in this fight, Spivac, and I don't think Spivac is that good of a striker who can do it. Again, he's an okay grappler for the division. Nothing Derrick Lewis hasn't seen before. It's the age, though. It's the age, it's the conditioning. It's Lewis coming off COVID. 37 against 28. Spivac does not have KO power. Lewis obviously has the KO power. Unless Derrick Lewis's chin is completely gone. He took a lot of damage in his last 2 fights. Unless that's the case, I really do think that the 21 TKO KO specialist can make it 22 and ride out into the sunset. The Black Beast doing his, oh my goodness, doing that amazing celebration for one more time. Last swan song, locking it in. Derrick Lewis with the KO TKO. Like and subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know who you are picking in the comments below, and I will see you on the live stream on Saturday.